Hello folks, welcome to El Canal Channel Jose. Today we're going to give you an idea how to replace the front brake pads and rotors for a 2007 to 2018 GMC Sierra, Chevrolet Silverado, Tahoe, Suburban, and this also applies for the Cadillac Escalade. And this is for a two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. And with that said, let's jump right into it. We have lifted our truck, put a jack stand, took the wheel off, and before we start messing the bottom with the brakes, we are gonna remove our cap for our master cylinder reservoir, so we can, when we compress the pistons, the oil comes up and it doesn't build pressure here. So we open this first. So what we have done is we have turned our wheel to the right because we want to expose most of the structure of the caliper towards the outside, so we can work on the taking off the bolt so it's easier. So we got to take this bolt off, and then once we take that, we can extract our caliper. And then to remove that disc brakes or the rotor, we have to remove the bracket that holds the caliper in place, and that is, there's one bolt here and then this one for the caliper base. So there's two for the caliper and two for the base or the bracket that holds the caliper against the spindle. So that's to take the rotor off. And then the rotor has this screw in there that is a T30, and we gotta take it off so that way the rotor comes off from the hub. So we start by taking the caliper off. So now we have to remove these two 19mm bolts to get the caliper off, and we're gonna be using a 19mm socket. So now that we took those two 19mm bolts off that hold the caliper against the structure, now we can do is split or push in those pistons a little bit in, so that way when we try to slide this caliper out, you don't bind into it and it won't let you come out. So you want to do is push those pistons just a little bit in, so it lets you slide this caliper off. So now that we took off our caliper, we set it on this kind of table, so this it rests and this brake line or brake hose doesn't get ripped and it breaks. So now we're gonna compress those pistons in, and the reason we're changing this, they're making squeaky noises, and so we're gonna be replacing brakes and rotor. So now we're gonna compress the pistons in. In our case, they're not too far out, but we're gonna show you how we do this so you can actually push him in, so when you're replacing it for new brake pads, you have that big gap in there so it fits over the new system. So to remove these brake pads, all you have to do, the outer brake pad, you just slide it out like this. And these are really fair new brake pads, but they're making a lot of noise, so we're going to be replacing with new ones and the rotors because they're a lifetime warranty. So this one just slides out, and the inner one, it just slides inwards. So now we're gonna be using our old brake pads to compress these pistons in, because the reason being is that if you compress one piston at a time, this piston pushes in and the oil pressure is gonna come out to this other side and it's gonna push out this piston. So you wanna compress both or four pistons at the same time, because that oil needs to go back to the reservoir. So we're gonna use this tool that we have purchased. So the way to do it is you compress, even with one brake pad, both pistons in at the same time, so they don't contradict themselves with the pressure. So now what we have caused is we actually push those pistons out by pressing the brake pedal. Don't do this, but we just show you for purpose. So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be acting like if these pistons were pushed out and we have to compress them, so you can see this tool in action. So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to press these pistons back in like if we had worn down brake pads. So let's put this tool to the test. So the purpose of this tool is to compress all the pistons in at once, because if you start compressing one piston, then the oil comes over to the other one, it pushes out that piston. So this tool compresses both pistons or four pistons in at once, and you don't have contradicting pressures on all the pistons. So that's why these tools are so handy. So now we compress the pistons in, so with the thickness of the brake pads and the rotor are going to be accepted into this opening now. So now we start replacing the rotor. So now we have to remove the structure that holds the caliper. There's the spindle, and to do that we have to remove this 18 millimeter bolt and this other 18 millimeter bolt down here, so we can take the structure off and the rotor comes out. So now we're about to take the rotor off because there's nothing that keeps it, or the bracket is off. So before you start hitting it around because you think that it's stuck in there because of the rust, you got to take this T30 bolt off so the rotor comes off. If you don't take that one off, you're going to be hitting it everywhere. You're going to damage it, and you're not going to be able to take it off because that T30 bolt is still there. So take that one off. It's a T30. So you're about to take off this T30, and you put your tools in there, and if you go right at it, you might round out that uh, bolt T30. So what you have to do is get your get your tools out, and then grab your socket, put it in there, or put something soft, put an extension, and then tap on it. So that way you break up the bond in the bolt. So you tap onto an extension into the bolt, and then you grab your tool, you set it in there, and then you try slowly. If you round that head off, you're gonna have to drill, and there's other stuff that you have to do to it now. So our tip is to tap on it with the hammer, and then once you get it, okay, try it, and go slow, go gentle. So here's the bolt. So it's all rusted in the threads, and there's the head. So this only comes from factory. So this all it does is to keep the rotor from flopping around when you take off the wheel and you're working on the wheels. So if you want to put this back on, you want to clean the threads, put some grease in it, so that way it doesn't get stuck for the next time. But all it is that you really don't need it. But if you want to put it back, just make sure it's clean and not too tight. Now that you have removed the T30's bolt, now you can remove the rotor with no problems. So now we have put our new rotor on. Before we start putting the caliper with the new brakes and everything else, we're gonna clean the rotor with the brake cleaner, so all the oil from when they made this rotor comes off. So now we're about to replace these clips for these brake pads where they slide, two per bracket. And then one thing also, make sure that your sliders slide back and forth freely on our case, as you can see. So now we remove these two and put the new ones, and then we gotta clean right in there as well. So now we're about to put the bracket for the caliper, and before we do that, we gotta clean the threads on the bolts, and then we gotta put some Loctite. So we're gonna put one drop in each, so that's gonna prevent these bolts, or help to prevent these bolts from loosening with a vibration. Okay, folks, so we're about to install the brake pads, and we got the outer brake pad, inner brake pad, and how you can tell is this extra meat on it, and then this clip that is here is a warning for when it's wearing down to the metal. That's going to be giving the warning. That's pointing up, and that's the internal brake pad. So the outer brake pad slides from out inwards, and the inner brake pad slides from into the rotor. So you're going to notice these little tabs, these metals here on the bottom and here in the top, and they're inner and outer. So what these are tension for the brake pad. So when it's not being applied towards the rotor, it pushes the brake a little bit away from the rotor, so there's no friction if the brakes are not being applied. That's a tension away from the rotor. Now that we have put the brakes on and everything's tight so far, we get our caliper, we slide it over it, and then we start guiding it, push our guides or sliders in so it slides and starts lining up. And now we can put our 19mm bolt. So now we straightening our wheels. So we're gonna put the wheel on and we're gonna press the brake so this sets, and then we're gonna check on the fluid, the master cylinder. So now we did one side, so the oil hasn't overflown. So always keep an eye on this guy, because if the oil overflows, then you're gonna have trouble. But in our case, it looks good. We did one side, now we go to the other side. So now what we did to the driver's side, we do to the passenger side. So we have taken out the wheel. So what we're gonna be doing is gonna turn left so the caliper comes out. So we have the bolts and everything easier to take off. One thing that we wanna mention is that when you're working on these screws or bolts, T30s, and you wanna take that bolt or screw first before you take the caliper out, because if that bolt don't come out and you're trying to spin it, the rotor with everything's gonna spin once you don't have this. So that way, if it try to spin, you get somebody to press the pedal and it's gonna stop the rotor from spinning, so you can take off the bolt easier. So we're gonna try to take it off, and as you can see, the rotor spins. So when you're trying to take that T30 off, so that's so important that somebody can press on the brake, so that way when you're trying to take this off, it comes off and it doesn't spin the whole structure. Press. Finally, we're done with the passenger side as well. So what we did to the driver's side, we do to the passenger side. So all we have to do is just put our wheel on, press the pedal, and check the brake fluid on the master cylinder. And well, folks, we have pressed the pedal, so both sides are being replaced with new rotors, new brake pads, and the oil level is good. Just put this cover back on, and we're done with this replacement. Well, folks, hopefully this video was useful and helpful on how to replace the brake pads and rotors for a 2007 to 2018 GMC Sierra, Chevrolet Silverado, Tahoe, Suburban, and also applies for the Cadillac Escalade for a four-wheel drive and two-wheel drive. And like we said, we changed rotors and brake pads, and that way you get an idea how you can do this replacement. So that way you don't have to take it to shops, and you can save a lot of money, and at the same time start learning about your cars. And with that said, folks, for our friends who are watching our video, haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe. If you like a video, give us thumbs up, share it, and we'll see you soon with more videos here en el canal El Chano José.